Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton Teeny from the First Home Buyer Club. 100 lessons in 100 days, day 57, lesson 57. Today, what I want to talk about is buying land. So there's a lot of things you need to consider before you purchase a block of land in order to ensure that you don't get charged a lot of money with hidden costs and issues that may come down the track. So I've written down 15 that I could think of off the top of my head. And so buckle in and let's work through them together. So the first one, the first thing you need to consider is when will that block of land be registered? So you'll find that when you actually sign land contracts, that a lot of the sunset clauses, and a sunset clause is really saying that they've got an extended period of time before the contract's null and void, tends to be around 18 months. Now that's a long time to be waiting before you even get the opportunity to build on the land. The other thing you need to consider, especially at the moment, if you're a first home buyer and eligible to the home builder boost and the new home guarantee and the first home buyer grant and all the other incentives, is things like the home builder boost. You need to be starting work on that block within 3 months. So if you've got a block of land that's not registered for 6 months, that means that you've got no possible chance whatsoever of getting those grants. And if you require those grants to purchase the loan or to help pay for the bills afterwards, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, right? Point number 2, disclosure plans and really the terrain of the block itself. So a lot of the time you might look at a block and go, oh, this block doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty much flat. But when you get the disclosure plan, you notice that over the 30-meter block, there's actually 1.5 meters or 2 meters of fall. Now, this can create extra costs and issues when it comes to building your home. And depending on who you build with, there might not be any budget whatsoever for these costs. And as a result, you're going to get stung with a maybe 10, 15, even as high as $20,000 bill afterwards to start cutting and retaining and peering the block to ensure that it's right for your house. Point number 3, the dimensions of the block itself. So this is a good one if you actually do things back to front and find the house and fall in love with the house before you look at the block. And because the problem is if you've got a design that's 12 or 13 meters wide and that block is only 12 meters wide, you're not getting it, right? So you just got to remember the dimensions of the block. If it's 12 meters wide, and depending on if it's QDC setbacks or it's actually development setbacks, will depend on how much of that block you can build on. So for a good example, in a brand new development, there's a lot of developments that will allow you to build the garage on a zero boundary. So the garage close to the fence. Now, it actually still sits 30 centimeters off the fence. So there's that little bit of a gap where if it's just QDC, Queensland Development Code, a lot of areas you won't have that same entitlement. So then you've got to consider that you may have to come 1 meter or 1.5 meters either side. And when you've got one of those narrower blocks, you're going to be in a lot of trouble trying to fit that house that you want to put on it. The other thing is that if you settle, and this point number 6, I think I'm 6 now, if you settle on that block of land and then try and figure out the house designs, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, right? You're going to be having all the holding costs of this block. And then you can't find the block, the house that fits on the block, and you're going to get disheartened and potentially pull out from taking the next step. Point number 7, zoning of the block itself. So there's a lot of things that need to be assessed and checked up front. For our clients, we do every one of these steps up front. You've got flooding, you've got bushfire, you've got acoustics, you've got nature. So with some blocks, and depending where you are, there can be like nature reserves and koala reserves and certain parts through, especially the bigger blocks, where you can't build in certain corridors. Now, again, the real estate agent isn't going to pick you up on a lot of these things because he wants to make the sale, right? And the other thing is it's not his job to do your work. Well, that's what they say. So you really need to do your own homework or be working with someone like us that does the homework on your behalf. Point number 9, is all the entire block got all the services and ready to build on? So does it have water? Does it have electricity? Does it have everything you need to that block so that you can build on it? Another good example of this is if you buy a battle axe block, and especially if you're buying an infill block. So you can buy blocks within a brand new development or infill where they've developed it at some point down in the past, and then they've either decided to chop that one block into 2 smaller blocks, or they've held on to that land for a while and then decided to sell it. Now, if it's a battle axe block, which means that you've got a driveway that goes to the back of the block, you may not have all the services ready at the block itself, at the start of your block. It might be services ready at the start of the first block, and so you might see on the ad, services ready to the block or something along those lines, and then you find out later on you've got to get all the water and the electricity and getting it up to the back of your block. That could be thousands and thousands of dollars that you're going to have to outlay that you didn't allow for in your budget when you're purchasing. Point number 10, soil quality. And so this is a good one when it comes to new versus old, but in service quality, this is a good one. So depending on, and I've just got a message here. Hey, Tika, how you doing? I'll just reply. Depending on the actual block of land that you purchase and the soil type. So in a brand new development, here's the thing. A lot of the developments, they'll have pretty much the same soil types. There's not a massive difference. But if you have an infill block, and especially someone's just dumped a whole heap of soil on there just to make it look flat, there can be a lot of other peering issues and extra costs that are associated with that block. Now, you may not see that up front, and then later on you're getting stung with all this money. It could send you broke, right? Point number 11, what are the house requirements that you're wanting with the home? So I spoke about it before briefly in regards to the dimensions of the block. Again, if you're wanting a 12-meter wide house and you've only got a 12-meter wide block, you're in trouble, right? So what are the dimensions of the house? What are the requirements in the home that you've got? Do they fit on the block? Will it work okay? And are you going to be happy? The other thing I didn't talk about before, I've missed that point for some reason, is I think it's point number 11. What is the orientation of the block? So which direction does the sun rise? Which direction does the sun set? Where are your bedrooms in relation to this? Where is the front of your house in relation to this? How is this going to affect your home when you build it? Are you going to be happy or not? The next point, and this is especially is important with brand new developments, is what are the design guidelines that come with purchasing that block of land in that development? So here's a good example. In some brand new developments, if you have a corner block, you have to have what they call is 2 articulations, which then from the side or the second street, it needs to kind of look pretty like a second frontage, right? They don't just want a nice frontage and then it looks horrible around the side. So it can't be a standard. It needs to come out and articulate. The other thing is certain developments may require you to use multiple materials on the facade or the front of the house to ensure it looks prettier and looks better. These are other considerations you need to make sure of, because later on, if you haven't factored in, there's going to be a lot of costs that are going to be coming out of your pocket. Point number, I think it's 13 now. What is your budget? And here's a good example. It's not only what is your overall budget, but what is your budget in the house, and is it going to work on that block? So if you've got a budget of $250,000 and you've got to outlay $30,000 in site costs and getting it prepared, is $220,000 going to be enough money for the house you want, right? The next one, neighboring properties. What do the neighboring properties have, and will they affect yours? So if either side of your house, they've got 2-story homes, just be aware you're not going to have some privacy coming into the block. The other thing with the neighbors that you really got to consider is, what are your neighbors like? Do they have car bodies sitting out the front? Is there long grass everywhere? Do they have just rubbish laying all over the ground? Are you going to want to live next to that type of person? You really need to assess these things, especially when it's in an infill block. You can't so much get the information on that on a brand new development because it tends to build all around the similar times. But you still need to consider those things. You know, the other houses, what are they going to build, and the effects of that. Point number 14 or 15. What are the future council plans in that development and close to you? A good example of that is there a highway that's going to be coming in close to where your block is later on that you're going to have issues with? Or as we're starting to experience now with the second airport that we're working through, there's certain flight paths now that are going to affect, I think it's like the developments close to the race course there, that they're going to fly straight over the top. Are you buying somewhere that's going to get hindered down the track by future council plans? Point number 17 or 16, I've lost count now, is your builder itself. And this is a good example, right? Not all builders are the same. Not all inclusions are the same. And depending on if you have a fixed price contract or a cost plus contract and what's actually in the contract, and I know there's a lot to it, but depending on those 3 or 4 factors will depend on if you should be concerned about future costs or not, right? So here's the thing. If you get a cost plus contract, the chances are that everything and anything that's going to arise between now and when you start building is going to be coming out of your pocket. Understand what the costs are that are associated. Understand if it's a fixed price contract, what part they fix, what part they guarantee. So for our clients, we have a fixed site cost, which means that no matter what happens, that, you know, on a standard block, when we price it up, that you don't have to worry about it. So when you look at that flat block, there's not going to be any issues. We hit rock, too bad, too sad for us. We'll just wear it, right? And the last one is I always want to talk about is consultants itself. So again, I refer to myself as a property coach and a consultant, but then you also have like private certifiers, draftees, architects. Who are you working with? Are they doing the right thing? Do you know what they should or shouldn't be doing? And who's going to manage it? Right, so there's, I lost count, I'm sorry, there's about 17 points. There is a lot to take in, right? And it's funny, with the team, we actually forget how many things we do without actually counting, but there is a lot. Make sure you're buying the right block of land and for the right reasons, not just because there's $25,000 on offer for first home buyers on top of the first home buyer grant. All right, guys, well, I hope you learned a bit out of tonight. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.